Hello students, hope you all are keeping well. Today we'll deal with voice. A sound knowledge of voice will help you in writing any kind of writing skills, but especially process writing. In our revision lesson on process writing, I told you that you are supposed to describe the process in passive voice. So today I've thought to deal with voice so that you may apply your knowledge of voice whenever and wherever it will be required. Now let's start our discussion with the definition of voice. What is voice? In grammar, the voice of a verb describes the relationship between the action or state that the verb expresses and the participants identified by its arguments like subject, object, etc. When the subject is the agent or doer of the action, the verb is in the active voice. When the subject is the patient, target, or undergoer of the voice action, the verb is said to be in the passive voice. There are two kinds of voice, active voice and passive voice. When the subject itself does the work, that is, the subject acts, the verb is in active voice. Whereas, when the subject does not do the work or act, rather it remains inactive, the verb is in the passive voice. The subject is the doer or actor of the action in the active voice. Whereas on the other hand side, the subject is not the doer but the receiver of the result of the action in the passive voice. Hence, a verb is in the active voice when its subject acts, that is, when its subject is active. Whereas a verb is in passive voice when its subject does not act, that is, it remains passive and suffers or receives the action of the verb. Therefore, voice is a grammatical category which makes it possible to view the action of a sentence in two ways without change in the fact reported. Voice is the form of the verb showing whether the subject acts or is acted upon. But most importantly, the doer in the passive voice is less important and not always expressed. Now, let me explain it through an example. For you, I have taken a very easy sentence. He did it. It is written in active voice, you can understand that. And when we will change it into passive voice, the sentence would be, it was done by him. The subject of the active voice gets the emphasis. The focus is entirely on he in active voice because he did it. But when we just change it into a passive voice, we are no longer focusing on him. The subject becomes it in the passive voice and we are using him as the doer or as an agent. And the rules here that I have followed, the object of the active verb, that is it, becomes the subject of the passive sentence. Number 2, the subject of the active verb, that is he, becomes the object in the passive preceded by the preposition by. Number 3, the main verb in the active voice is changed into the third form of the verb, that is the past participle form of the verb. And the last rule that I have followed here, that is the third form must be preceded by verb be. So the be verb is very crucial verb in forming a passive voice. The tense of the be verb is determined by the tense of the active voice. At the time of changing voices, we change the pronouns also. The pronoun changes when it becomes subject from object or vice versa. The subject I becomes me in object. Likewise, we becomes us, you remains you, he becomes him, she becomes her, they becomes them, WH word who becomes whom. So these are the changes that take place in pronouns also. Now girls, as I told you, while changing active voice into passive voice, the tense of the verb be is determined by the tense of the active voice. Here is a chart that shows how the verb be takes the following forms in the passive voice, agreeing with the new subject, that is the object of the active voice. The present tense, simple present tense, am, is, are. Present continuous tense, am being, is being, or are being. Present perfect tense, have been or has been. Past tense, simple past tense, was or were. Past continuous tense, was being, were being. Past perfect tense, had been. And future tense, simple future tense, shall be or will be. Future continuous tense is not in use, and future perfect tense will be shall have been or will have been. Now here there are certain points, or there are certain things that you need to remember. There is no passive for the perfect continuous tense. Number 2, the verb be is a must for the passive voice. Number 3, the main verb always takes the third form, that is the past participle form. So the passive voice must take two verbs, verb be plus the third form of the given verb. These are the basic rules that help us to change the voice of a verb. Since we have just started our class, we are dealing with the basic rules first. Girls, most often we make mistake while forming a sentence in passive voice. We think that the passive verb, that is the be verb and the third form of the given verb, is followed by the preposition by only. But my dear students, by is not the only preposition that we use in a passive voice. Prepositions are determined by the verbs itself. There are some verbs that do not take by after them. Here are a few of them. I know him. And when we write it in passive voice, the sentence would be, he is known to me. It's not that he is known by me, because know is the verb that takes to with it. He married her. In passive, she was married to him. Here again, married in passive voice takes to. Then the news pleased all. In passive voice, it is transformed as all were pleased with the news, not by the news. The last example that I have taken, her manner shocked me. I was shocked at her manner, not by her manner. So here are a very few examples of the exceptional prepositions, but I cannot give you the entire list here. The more you will practice, the more you will be flawlessly efficient in selecting the correct preposition for the passive voice. The next form that I want to explain to you today is quasi-passive verb or pseudo-passive verb. Now, do you know what does the word quasi mean? According to dictionary, it means apparently but not really, supposedly or seemingly. And there is another name for this kind of passive verb, pseudo-passive. Again, the word pseudo, according to dictionary, means not genuine. So, quasi-passive is that form of voice where the verb is active in form but passive in meaning. Let's take an example. Lemon tastes sour. Now in active voice we are saying this, and lemons are given the importance or the focus is on lemon. In passive voice, we are changing it in a way, lemon is sour when it is tasted. So girls, you can see the focus remains on the subject itself. So seemingly it is a passive voice, but actually it is not. Since we have already dealt with the basic rules, let's see how the voice change takes place. Let's start with assertive sentences. Here the rule is very simple. The passive structure is subject followed by be verb plus past participle of the verb followed by the object. The examples are, we respect our teachers. And in passive voice, we will write, our teachers are respected by us. Likewise, Mithun will have consulted the doctor. The doctor will have been consulted by Mithun. The third one, we had used Tata Steel in this building. Tata Steel had been used in this building. Girls, as I have already given you the chart on the be verb in passive voice, please go through that so that you can understand these changes easily. Now our next change would be the interrogative sentences. Let's focus on interrogative sentences. For interrogative sentences, the rules depend on the structure of the interrogative sentence itself. If the interrogative sentence in active voice starts with do, does or did, the question word will be changed into am, is, are, was or were. If a question in active voice starts with who will be replaced with by whom in passive voice. Rule number 3. When the interrogative sentence in passive voice starts with WH word in passive voice, the proper form of be verb will have to be used just after the WH word. But this rule is not applicable for the WH word which. In passive voice, WH word which will be followed by the subject itself. Here are some examples for you. Active voice. Has she taken her medicine? In passive, has her medicine been taken by her? Which class notes has she lost? Which class notes have been lost by her? And the last one, who is reciting the poem properly? And in passive voice, it is used in by whom is the poem being recited properly. Next, we will talk about imperative sentences. Girls, as you know, that imperative sentences are those sentences which we utter to command or to instruct, to request, to order, to prohibit or to forbid, to advise or to suggest. Now, the passive structure for an imperative sentence depends on the function of the imperative sentence. For example, if it's a command sentence, the passive voice will begin with let, followed by the object of the active voice. Further, it will be followed by be and then past participle form of the verb. For a request sentence, the passive voice will be started with you are requested to. For order, you are told to, you are asked to, you are instructed to. Likewise, for prohibition, you are prohibited to or you are forbidden to. And for advice, you are advised to. Now, let's check this through some examples. Drop the shutter, please. Now, since it's a request, the passive voice will be you are requested to drop the shutter. Do the work now. Let the work be done now. Go there at once. You are told or asked to go there at once. Don't walk fast. You are forbidden to walk fast. Now let's see how voice is changed in an optative sentence. Now, optative sentences are those sentences through which we express our desires or prayers. May God bless you. And in active voice, we will say, may you be blessed by God. And now comes the last part. the last rule, or rather last example, the change of complex sentences. In changing the voice of complex sentences, the voice of both the main and the subordinate clause should be changed. The introductory it also may sometime be used. Let's take an example once again. We must endure what we cannot cure. And in passive voice, it will be what cannot be cured must be endured. So, girls, these were the basic as well as the most useful rules of voice of a verb and those of changing voices. The class will remain incomplete if you don't have enough practice materials. Here are some practice materials for you to solve them at home in your English copy. Let me just read the sentences for you. Change the voice. Number 1. The delivery boy must wear PPE kit. Number 2. Fire burned the house to ashes. Number 3. He likes people to call him sir. Number 4. Prepare for the journey to heaven. Number 5. We saw him steal the TV. Number 6. We had a nice dinner last night. Number 7. She told us the story. Number 8. Who teaches you mathematics? Number 9. Tears filled my eyes. Number 10. Sham handed me the chair. Number 11. My mother taught me to be a good human being. Number 12. Why did you give a rude reply? Number 13. Mangoes sell cheap here. And number 14. All desire wealth and some acquire it. Number 15. Correct the errors. Number 16. We should speak the truth. Number 17. We must love our country. Number 18. Please don't smoke. Number 19. May you live long. Number 20. He marries her for money. Number 21. It is time to say our prayer. 22. The flask contains milk. 23. How was the problem solved? 24. On my birthday, my mother gave me a storybook. 25. Whom did you rebuke? 26. The compartment was decked with flowers. 27. Neighbor spread rumors. 28. Fetch a pair of shirts from M Bazaar. 29. Give me a glass of water. And 30. Stop. Girls, there is no limit of practice. I've given you only 30 sentences, but trust me, that's insufficient. So, do the exercises from the question bunch of our school or from any test papers. Please stay home, stay safe, and study. Thank you.